These theories are in fact nothing but the application of the law of supply and demand to the problem of the value of money. They introduce into monetary theory on the strong part of this doctrine, and of course on its weak point as well. The revolution in economic since 1870 has not yet been any more successful in leading to an entirely satisfactory solution of this problem. Of course, this does not value of money. Cambridge is a true approach very close to a solution of the problem, but passes it by, which expressly refer to the incomplete nature of the previous treatment. In his criticisms of the quantity theory, he argued that the law of supply and demand in its other form, the application of which to the problem of money contributes the quantity theory, has a very inadequate content, since it gives no explanation at all of the way in which value is really determined, or of its level at any given time, but confines itself without any further explanation merely to stating the direction in which value will move in consequence of variations in supply or demand, that is, in an opposite direction to changes in the former and in the same direction as changes in the latter. They further argue that it is no longer possible to rest content with a theory of the economic value of money which deals so inadequately with the problem that since the supersection of the old law of supply and demand as applied to commodities, the case for which it was originally constructed, a more searching law must also be sought to apply to the case of money. But Guizot does not deal with the problem whose solution he himself stated to be the object of his investigation, for in the further course of his argument he declared that the concept of supply of money and demand for money as a medium of exchange are useless for his purpose, and put forward a theory which attempts to explain variations in the objective exchange value of money by references to the relationship that exists in an economic community between money income and real income. For while it is true that reference to the ratio between money income and real income may well serve to explain variations in the objective exchange value of money, which nowhere make the attempt to evolve a complete theory of money, an attempt which admittedly the factor of supply and demand being excluded from consideration would be certain to fail. The very objection that raised against the old quantity theory, that it offered nothing concerning the actual determination of value or the level at which it must be established at any time, must also be raised against his own doctrine. And this is all the more striking inasmuch as it was Guizot who, by revealing the historical element in the purchasing power of money, laid the foundation for the further development of the subjective theory of the value of money. The unsatisfactory result offered by the subjective theory of value might seem to justify the opinion that this doctrine, and especially its proportion concerning the significance of marginal utility must necessarily fall short as a means of dealing with the problem of money. Characteristically enough, it was a representative of the new school Griswold who first expressed this opinion. Griswold considered that the principle which lies at the basis of all modern investigation into the theory of value, namely the concept of marginal utility, may well be sought to explaining the determination of exchange ratios between one commodity and another, but that it has practically no significance at all, or at most an entirely secondary significance in explaining the exchange ratios between money and other economic goods. Griswold, however, does not appear to detect any short objection to the marginal utility theories in this assertion. According to his argument, the objective exchange consequently, if there is to be any react at all against a price assessment, that is either too high or too low, it must in some way or other originate outside the commodity market. In the further course of his argument, Griswold arrived at the conclusion that the regulator of money price is to be should in the relation of the commodity market to the money market. In the broadest sense of the term, the cause which influences the demand for raw materials, labor, the use of land, and other means of production, and thus indirectly determines the upward or downward movement of commodity price in the ratio between the money rate of interest and the natural or equilibrium rate of interest, by which we understand that rate of interest which would be determined by supply and demand if real capital was itself lent directly without the intermediation of money. We shall imagine that this argument of his provides a theory of the determination of the objective exchange value of money. In fact, however, all that he attempts to prove is that force operates from the loan market on the commodity. The theory of money and credit. Chapter 5. Money as an economic good. 2. Money as part of private capital. We have not undertaken this investigation into the relationship between money and production goods merely for its terminological interest. What is of importance for its own sake is not our ultimate conclusion, but the incidental light shed by our argument upon those peculiarities of money that distinguish it from other economic goods. This special characteristic of the common medium of exchange will receive closer attention when we turn to consider the laws that regulate the value of money and its variations. But the result of our reasoning to the conclusion that money is not a production good is not entirely without significance. It will help us to answer the question whether money is capital or not. This question in its turn is not an end in itself, but it provides a check upon the answer to the further problem concerning the relation between the equilibrium rate of interest and the money rate of interest, which will be dealt with in the third part of this book. If each conclusion confirm the other when we may assume with a considerable degree of assurance that our arguments have not led us into error. The first grave difficulty in the way of any investigation into the relation between money and capital arises from the difference of opinion that exists about the definition of the concept of capital. The views of scholars on the definition of capital are more divergent than their views on any other point of economic non-concept of capital or not. The delimitation